Tonight we are live from the virtual Brailston, Georgia, as we go back in time to 1982 with dirt race at the Lanier Raceway. It's the 5th race of the Dirt Street Stock Series, brought to you by the Bootleg Racing League right here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I'm Gary Weaver. With me in the booth tonight is Devin Henry, working hard behind the scenes on production. Is going to be our director, Joe Peak, and he's using cameras brilliantly set up by Dougie Beard. Before we get underway with tonight's event, let's take a look and see how exactly we get around Lanier Raceway with our GSRC lap guide.
Lanier National Speedway, now known as Lanier Raceplex, finally started seeing racing action again a few years ago. Before the track went silent in 2011, it was a common feature on touring short track series schedules across the southeastern United States. But today, we harken back to an age before Lanier was even paved. Lanier was originally built as a 3/8 mile dirt oval back in 1982, and it saw plenty of weekend dirt track action with your late models and street stocks. As open-wheel dirt track racing became more popular across the Southeast, the world of outlaws, sprint cars even made some trips here in the mid-80s. Midgets and sprints, USAC Silver Crown, they all took their turns. But alas, Lanier was paved in 1987. But thankfully, in the world of iRacing, we can harken back to the days where the cushion and tire stagger were king and put modern dirt racing vehicles back onto Lanier. It's time to sling some mud in Georgia.
And that is how we get around Lanier Raceway. As we see it, we are currently under the lights, and we'll go ahead and go over to Devin Henry, who has information here with the Lanier Raceway. Devin?
Well, you mentioned all back in the day, back in 1982, and a few years before that, of course, there was dirt racing at Lanier National Speedway, although it's kind of the only track in iRacing that wasn't actually laser scanned, because back then the iRacing guys were like, well, computers don't exist yet, so we can't scan this track yet. But nonetheless, in Braselton, Georgia, this dirt layout, anywhere around 5 and 11 degrees banking, you'll get to 5 or 3 degrees in the straightaways, up to 11 degrees on the high side of the corners here at this dirt track, lasting about 0.38 miles or 0.6 kilometers, whichever way you want to look at it. But most of you dirt guys will likely know this track. It's just a 3/8 mile oval.
Thanks, Devin. We will definitely bring it back to you multiple times, and really looking forward to seeing how you're going to be seeing and keeping a very close eye on the track. Before we go ahead and get into your championship standings, we'd like to remind you that the series tonight is brought to you by the Cruise Shop, and the Cruise Shop has been in operation since 1986. They are a team of highly experienced travel agents that have a huge passion for travel. They specialize in cruises, all-inclusive resorts, escorted tours, Disney and family travel, groups, honeymoons, and weddings. They would love the opportunity to help you plan your next vacation. Give them a call today at 260-755-6125 or visit thecruiseshopfw.com. The Cruise Shop is dedicated to fulfilling their clients' dreams one destination at a time. Heading into the championship standings after Knoxville from last week, well, it has definitely changed ever so slightly. Tyler Jackson now 321 points on top in the driver's standings. Justin Morton 48 points behind. We had a very close battle with Jackson last week as well as Michael Redding, which I'll also get into a little bit more detail, as Redding sits 64 points behind. Steven Spees just 4 points behind Redding. Kenny Kibbe rounding out the 5th place position in your point standings here tonight. And now, interestingly enough, I believe we should be able to actually throw it to Devin here for the race details tonight.
Well, Gary, we're looking at round number 5 of 11 races here in the Bootleg Racing League Dirt Street Stocks. We will have heat race formats, 5 to 6 cars in every heat race. The top 3 will advance to your feature. We will have 20 cars in total make the main. Regardless of how many heats we have, we'll have at most 6. But 3 cars from each heat race move up, and then the remainder of the A main will be filled through the Constellation race to make up our 20-car field. Only one faster pair here in your heat races, the Consi, and of course tonight's A feature.
Thanks, Devin. And with the scores of the race, we'll throw it back to you just in a couple of moments. While we have defending champion Tyler Jackson continuing his dominance of this series with now 3 total wins, out of the 4 races, only Bobby Rafferty, who currently sits 8th in points, is the only other driver to win at least 1 race in this series for this season. So after last week, it was quite interesting. Of course, Devin, you know as well, especially with how just Tyler Jackson just worked his way up through the field. And even though he started second place, or second row, I should say, on most of the restarts, he managed to battle Redding to a very, very great victory in the final few laps last week.
Yeah, we're watching Michael Redding go around Lanier right now, and he was a guy who it looked like was going to be the first person not named Bobby Rafferty or Tyler Jackson to win a race, but Jackson, like you said, starting in that second row multiple times. Most of these races, he leads a lot of the laps. Last week at Knoxville, he only led 3 of the 40 laps. Right now, we do not have Tyler Jackson out on track. He hasn't made a lap yet, but it is great to see Bobby Rafferty back out here with the Bootleg Racing guys, because last week we unfortunately did not have him here with us, and he was someone who was so great at Knoxville, so it's great to have Bobby Rafferty back on track. But as long as Tyler Jackson does make it on track, he's gonna be the guy to beat. Last season when these guys raced here at Lanier, he led 49 of what was a 50-lap race, only 40 laps here tonight. And so if history proves anything, it's that the guy to beat is gonna be the guy with those shark teeth front quarter panels.
Let's take a look at the drivers around the track. Michael Redding actually also nearly held off Tyler Jackson for the win. There was an amazing last lap battle where Jackson forced his way by. Justin Morton had also pulled a surprising top 2 finish at Knoxville, where I believe he thought it was about top 3, top 5 material in his interview last week post-race, but he did qualify on the pole, and he showed that he did have that speed, but Jackson was just able to better Morton that time around. So just mentioned to hang on to it. Justin Morton's still currently setting laps as well, and Tyler Jackson is here tonight, but he just has yet to make a warm-up time for the time being. And well, he does have just under 4 minutes actually to do so.
Yeah, well, hopefully he can get back out here on the track, but right now Bobby Rafferty's setting the pace, but lap times have already started to drop drastically. Michael Redding's quick time was a 16.7, and right now he's running around 17.7s, and so we've already dropped a 10th off. And the reason for that is you can see where some of that darker, shinier texture is. For those of you guys a little bit newer to dirt racing, that's where the track starts slicking off, taking that rubber, and it gets really slick. It's almost like just driving actual street stocks on a racetrack when you're trying to slide and move around. And you guys who run a lot of rookie class, oh man, you know Lanier. You know how Lanier is. The middle and the inside loves to get raced. But when you have a series like this running 5 to 6 heat races, Constellation, then the track is set back to 20% for the A feature, it just runs out so quickly. This is a track where, unlike Knoxville or Eldora, where, okay, let's move up to the wall, push the cushion, find some moisture. This is one of the tracks, kind of like Volusia, where you just race the middle. Just be careful on the steering wheel, slam that throttle down, and ride on that slick stuff. So it'll be interesting tonight to see who's got the skill to keep that car on the bottom and in the middle in that slick stuff, because you can still keep up a ton of speed there.
And that speed is, of course, very important to keep right now, as I'm actually currently watching just Aiden Young and Michael Redding go side by side between themselves, actually. I believe we're on board with Redding still. So these guys have just been running side by side, 2 by 2 for this entire run for, I think, now 3 or 4 laps straight at this point. They've been just going and going and going, and it doesn't really look like anybody is really having a severe advantage as of yet.
Yeah, they're running almost identical lap times right now, and you can see exactly how versatile this track can be, even though they're no longer using that middle, they're just using the edges, the inside and the outside right now.
Yeah, we're going to get your picture back in just a couple of moments as Joe Peak works on some stuff behind the scenes, and now Aiden Young has actually opted to go just below the tire tracks of Michael Redding, so these two are really showcasing it. Pretty much what we could probably expect as Aiden Young now goes to the top side in turns 3 and 4 in that brighter portion of the racetrack. And well, Devin, what's really the difference and advantages really of running the slick stuff, the run-in portion of the racetrack versus, well, the lighter portion up on the top side?
Well, the most important part is that when you have moisture on the track, you have more grip. And so, especially when you run a series like sprint cars or something like that, it's actually more important to keep the car straight than it is to be sliding. People don't register that all the time with dirt track racing, that you actually want to keep the wheels straight on this thing. And so when you're able to find that tacky, muddy, wet surface, you can keep the car with so much more grip, so you're not scrubbing off a ton of speed, especially in cars like these, which are just tanks and are so hard to get your momentum back. In the slick stuff, though, it's slick because everyone's using it. Why is everyone using it? Because it's the best line. And this is one of the few tracks in iRacing where you are able to have an advantage if you know how to race the slick stuff. If you can just crank that wheel to the right, slide that thing all the way through the corner, and keep it on the gas, you can outrun everyone who's trying to push the cushion still, unlike at a lot of tracks. And so a lot of it ends up being driver preference when you end up in a 40-lap A main. Can you keep your car straight enough in the slick stuff, in the preferred line for 40 laps? For even some of the really, really good racers, the answer is still usually no.
I'll see how this plays out tonight, because now we are about to head into our qualifying portion of the night. 5 minutes, 4 laps in total, and, well, 4 attempts really for everyone to set the best lap time. And I don't believe that Tyler Jackson has even set well, he did set practice time, but Tyler Jackson's practice time was 4th to last. So we'll see exactly how he fares here for tonight. So far, no one can really knock him off, as Michael Redding looks to be the very first driver that's just a little bit of ahead, but really taking a look at now Brad Speidel as well.
And of course, here in qualifying, the track is reset back to 0, and so the track is nice and moist. You do want to try to get low. The issue with driving it right on the wall here at Lanier is, like I mentioned earlier, scrubbing off all that speed. And so you kind of move up a little bit more in the middle. If you can arc the corners and try to kind of apex it like you would on a dirt bike or something, it is a little bit more helpful. But this is a track where you can use a lot of the track to run a fast lap, as Michael Rain hits the top of the board first. Now Dylan Schweer now looking at P1.
Yeah, we're going to be seeing that change ever so slightly throughout the next 4 or so minutes for the time being, as everyone currently continues to make their rounds. It's now Bobby Rafferty up on the front row. Joe Segala moves to 2nd place, and that shoves Dylan Schweer now down into 3rd place. So it's going to be a lot of shuffling here throughout this qualifying session.
And Rafferty had a beautiful line on some of his fast laps as he has concluded his qualifying sessions. What he did was he would arc out, or I actually believe he hasn't finished them all yet, but this is the greatest part about qualifying in iRacing. If you mess up a lap, just go back to the pits and you lose a lap, but the great part of the series is that you get to have more than just 2 laps. But starts on the high side, it brings it all the way down where you're almost touching that inside wall, and then you just rock it right off the exit of the corner. That's exactly how you want to run here in qualifying. He's back at it again, but Dylan Schweer now to the top of the board, Gary.
And it's back up to the top 1 to again this time by, but Bobby Rafferty's about to finish his qualifying time once we ride on board Steven Speeds for the time being. And Bobby Rafferty with the exact same time he set in practice, a 16.716. Show the 77 at the top of the board twice with the same exact lap time that he set in practice. That is a first for me that I've ever seen right now, as now defending champion Tyler Jackson is now starting to make his rounds on the track. He's let everyone run their own line. As we saw Kenny Kibbe for a few moments. Right now, Tyler Jackson is the only driver really that's left to set a qualifying time. We're going to ride on board and see how he does for his first lap. First time up this time by for Jackson.
And Tyler likes to go late. We've seen him even last week. The greatest part about iRacing with everyone qualifying at the same time is you can see, okay, what lap do I need to beat? And so Tyler Jackson has the advantage of saying, all right, Bobby Rafferty ran 16.716. Well, it's time to try to beat a 16.716.
Well, it's already just about a 10th, exactly goodness gracious, if I can number correctly, 0.101 seconds over, just under Bobby Rafferty's lap time. So far, so good. This time by the start-finish line, it's actually slower, so very similar to his practice lap time. His fast lap in practice was a 17.293. See his current lap last time around was a 17.3. So we'll see. He's getting right on the inside line there, trying to get a faster lap time in any way, shape, or form. But so far, it's going to be the 16.817 as he goes down the back straightaway. This is his final attempt. So we'll see if Tyler Jackson can get the pole time as he rounds turns 3 and 4 across the start-finish line. Does he get the pole time? He does not. That last time was a 17 flat, and Tyler Jackson, I think, for the first time, is not going to be starting within the top 5 portion of qualifying.
Yeah, and it's not like he doesn't know how to run this track. We mentioned earlier he was the top qualifier last season in this race and led 49 of the 50 laps. So I'd like to see him have a little bit more arc into the corners there. But hey, he had the right idea, though. He wanted to put those bottom feeder shark teeth right down there on the wall, and it's going to be a fight for real estate. Everyone's going to want to go to the bottom here in heat race number 1.
Tyler Jackson qualified 9th that time around, and that is pretty much everybody qualified except for Jason Menda, who unfortunately had a little bit of issues over on his side, and I don't believe Jason Menda is able to make it. So instead of 22 drivers going home, it is now going to be 21 drivers going home. Sorry, one driver going home instead of 2 drivers going home. Right now, it's really just looking at the quiet Lanier Speedway before we head and release the hounds essentially for 8 laps to try and figure out really who's going to be going into the feature, keeping in mind that all of the heat race grids will be inverted from qualifying.
And of course, that's one of our favorite parts about this series is you get to watch the fast guys have to pass at least 4, if not 5 cars if they want to have a top 5, top 6 starting position in the A feature. One of the most exciting parts of the night sometimes is watching guys like Bobby Rafferty here in heat race number 1 try to come on up. And this is actually a stacked heat race coming up here, Gary.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be entirely stacked. We'll see how everyone lines up here with your starting grid, as it's going to be Brennan Myers in the 25. He's always made his way into the feature at some point. He'll be starting on the front row in first place, with the 00 of Matt Shinoski starting off in second place, and Jared Melton starts off in the 3rd place position. Devin?
We get to see Tyler Jackson here in heat race number 1 in the blue number 8 starting 4th. Kenny Kibbe, who has had plenty of success in the series in that orange 14, starts in 5th. Bobby Rafferty in the 77, the blue and black car. Quick qualifier will round out the field. Those back 3 cars are bad, fast cars in this series. This almost looks like a trophy dash, Gary.
Jackson's already running the top side. He's already trying to practice his acceleration already. So 2 pace laps, of course, under the pace truck, at least 1 full pace lap, and then it will be the pace truck pulling off. So crossing the start-finish line for the possibly final time, at least for this heat, will be at that pace truck, and then we're going to let these drivers loose for 8 laps. We've seen Brennan Myers for sure. We've seen a majority of this field really be in the feature race. So any final thoughts before we get them and let them loose?
This is going to be fun, guys. Hit your screen record. This one's going to be a fun heat race. Maybe the most fun that we've seen all year.
Oh yeah, we'll see how this goes. Lanier Speedway is about to be roaring with the engines as the green flag flies. Brendan Myers brings the field to the green flag, and immediately Tyler Jackson splits right through 3 wide. He gets a little bit tagged, but they already make it through, and Tyler Jackson, just like that, from 4th to 1st within, what, 10, 20 feet of the start-finish line?
Yeah, that was something interesting there at the start. It looked like a couple of people checking up. Here in this league, you have to wait for the green flag. You go on green. Otherwise, you do get at least a warning or penalized. But Tyler Jackson got an opportunity quick, and Brendan Myers is doing everything he can to fend off Kenny Kibbe for that final transfer spot here early in heat race number 1.
Yeah, Brendan Myers also is now going to have a side-by-side battle behind him, actually, between Rafferty and Kibbe. That's going to be for 4th place. Transfer spot is the top 3, so keep an eye on that. Brendan Myers is, I'm pretty sure, trying to keep an eye behind him as best as possible, with Bobby Rafferty running a little bit lower on the inside. As he gets through turns 3 and 4, it's going to be halfway just the next time around the start-finish line. Right now, Rafferty trying to get by Kenny Kibbe, and he does for now. He's going to set his sights on Brendan Myers.
The best thing that Myers can see right now in his rear view mirror, fictional of course for dirt cars, but still seeing 2 wide action. Bobby Rafferty's finally got around Kibbe, and so now here's Rafferty's chance, pitching it way low, a little bit too low that time. Top 3, Myers, Janoski, or excuse me, Jackson, Melton, and Myers looking to transfer to the A main halfway.
And coming to now 3 laps to go. It might be Brendan Myers for the time being. It's everyone single file for now. Using between the 3rd and 4th place drivers, Myers and Rafferty. Well, Rafferty was actually slower, so I'm pretty sure he knows that he just has to get there as soon as possible. 2 laps to go for Tyler Jackson as he rides on board Kenny Kibbe. Just seeing Bob Rafferty trying to work his way through, but it might be an even match between Myers and Rafferty for the time being.
Everyone in a row, everyone using that preferred inside lane as Tyler Jackson continues to gap the rest of the field. Coming here now. White flag.
Right now, it's going to be a very close battle for second place on back, but Tyler Jackson, with an impressive pass right out the start, he'll go to the win and immediately to the feature. Jared Melton will finish and advance in second, Brendan Myers third, and Bobby Rafferty will not advance just quite yet. He will have the consolation event here, but still, for Bobby Rafferty, pretty sure it is a little bit of a surprise here, but I think for Rafferty, if I remember correctly, it will be a little bit of an advantage for him in the consolation event.
Yeah, you do get to see the track slicked off. You get to feel how the track is going to be later in the A feature. But, of course, the biggest issue is that you start so far back in the A feature. So many fast guys that you're going to have to pass. And, yeah, that's interesting. It's not very often you get to see Bobby Rafferty and Kenny Kibbe have to come through the consolation.
It's going to be interesting to see how they play this out. Heat race number 2 of 4 holds John Wilson in first, Austin Belke second place in number 24, and Ron Snyder rounds out your first half of the field in number 29.
The white 76 of Brad Speidel will start things off in fourth place. Joe Segala in the 81 in fifth. Rounding out the field, the number 2 qualifying in the white and blue 05, Dylan Schweer, who is pretty dang fast in qualifying.
We'll see, of course, Dylan Schweer again with the field being inverted. So Bobby Rafferty, I'm pretty sure Dylan Schweer actually kept an eye on that, wondering, maybe when everything settles out, I won't be able to get into the top 3 right away. I'm pretty sure that, I wouldn't be surprised if that was on his mind, because that's what happened to Bobby Rafferty. Qualified first place, started last, was expected to be in the top 3, well, ended up 4th and just a little bit short. So we'll see as John Wilson is now in control of the field on the inside lane in the number 52. Pace truck pulls off as the green flag flies. Do we see a jump from anybody just yet? No, it's going to be 2 by 2 as we head down into turn number 1. A little bit of contact as well as Belke gets up the racetrack. 3 wide for second off turn number 2. 3 wide out for third as all the way on the inside lane comes Joe Segala to third.
Segala and Schweer got together going into turn number 1, and Joe Segala already up to the final transfer spot. Sitting in P3. Snyder, though, wants the lead now from John Wilson.
And John Wilson will slide up the racetrack. Actually, Segala looking to the middle, but he will not actually have enough momentum, but I'm pretty sure he'll try and take it. It's going to be 3 wide for first, almost actually off turn number 4, and that will be, it's a very staggered 3 wides. They make contact. Segala goes around in the middle of the field. I believe that will be a caution, and it is, but Austin Belke with heavy front end damage with nowhere to go. Caution that for the first time tonight as we get a replay here.
Boy, this has been a roller coaster ride for Joe Segala in this very short heat race. Gets up to third, sees the leaders battling in front of him, wants to get in on the action, goes into 3, and Ron Snyder just kind of slides up the track. Segala wants to try to split that middle. I believe that's the next lap there, but there it is. Going into turn number 1, John Wilson slides on down. Segala sliding up, fight for real estate, and they pile up behind him.
Belke with absolutely nowhere to go with that, just absolutely out of nowhere. He's going to take his faster pair immediately right now, and I do not blame him whatsoever because I think that looks kind of like a little bit of a street stock modified now at this point.
Yeah, definitely got plenty of damage on there. Obviously, aerodynamics don't play a huge role in dirt car racing. You're not really going faster, well, straight enough usually, but of course, whenever the steering gets hit out of alignment, it makes this so much more difficult because you're already manning the steering wheel so much, but Ron Snyder, John Wilson, Brad Speidel, now the chance to advance here to the A feature. Joe Segala is outside that bubble position now.
It's going to be lights out. John Wilson starting on the outside lane with Ron Snyder on the inside lane. This time by, it's going to be the field in control of number 29 as Wilson tries to get an early start on the outside lane, and Snyder holds off just a little bit. So green flag racing once again, 2-lap shootout to the end.
Way outside goes the 52 of John Wilson. Snyder has a little bit of room in front of him to work with into P2 with Speidel. They're almost 3 wide for that final transfer spot as Dylan Schweer moves into third place.
And the 05 sneaking in as it's the final lap and just booting the cone into the pit row as Ron Snyder to the inside. It goes Brad Speidel for the lead this time by. And I think that could be all said and done. It's going to be a side-by-side drag race as third place is secure. Brad Speidel and Ron Snyder side-by-side at the start-finish line. And that's going to be Brad Speidel getting the win by 4 1/1000ths of a second. And Dylan Schweer will also advance with your top 3 advancing again into the main. A great job by Speidel and Snyder to have a clean drag race to the line. Snyder losing out by 4/1000ths of a second. That was absolutely incredible. I'm wondering if that's something we might be seeing here heading into the A main.
And how about the fastest qualifier in that group? Schwier ends up finding a way into third on that final restart. Nothing better than late race cautions for a viewer, right, Gary?
Oh yeah, that late race caution was definitely playing into effect as well, and we might be seeing that playing into effect as well with the A main. We'll see. No one really knows until it happens, if it does, as we have heat race number 3 of 4 now coming up, as we have Jason Menda going to be actually not starting on the pole, as he again had a few issues, so it's technically going to be Robbie Robinson starting on the pole in first place. Donnie Moore starts in second. Third place will be Justin Morton. Fifth place, Steven Spies, and or fourth place, Steven Spies. Fifth place will be Aiden Young. So a little bit of a slightly lopsided starting grid, but other than that, unfortunately for Jason Munda, hopefully gets everything sorted out by next week. But Robinson will be starting on the pole, I believe.
Yeah, according to what dirt racing usually does, is that the inside row will move forward. We'll see how they decide to do that up in the tower, but obviously 5 cars here. This will be our second to last heat race. Top 3 advance.
Looks like right now Robinson is not making a move forward, so I think how they do is it just goes to the next numbered driver, so numerically moving forward. We'll see, but they look to be leaving a gap on the inside lane for the time being. I think that means it will be in control for Donnie Moore this time around, but we'll see as Robinson starts to creep his way up to the inside lane a little bit. But regardless, we're going to be having 5 cars. 2 will be going to the consolation event here this time by. It looks like it's going to be Donnie Moore up on the outside lane, bringing the field to the green flag as we're underway for another 8 laps.
Dipping down inside real quick. Robbie Robinson takes advantage of Donnie Morgan way outside. Hops the cushion. He's all the way back into 5th now. Now Steven Speeds wants some action up front.
Steven Speeds just hanging out a little bit mid-pack essentially throughout this entire season as Aiden Young nearly slid up into Justin Morton, but they all managed to hang on to it somehow, some way. 3 wide for second place and probably for the transfer position as well in a sense, as Justin Morton slides through the middle, gets shuffled out just a little bit, but not as much, as Robinson will now get shuffled all the way back side by side between himself and Donnie Moore for 4th place as Moore tries to go to the inside. Nothing doing just yet.
Moore's hugs in that inside wall and trying to find a way around Justin Moore for that final transfer position. Meanwhile, Steven Speed starting to run away from the pack here with 5 to go.
I mean, with these drivers battling side by side behind him, it's going to be a very easy getaway for himself. And of course, with the speed that he has had so far this season, he's been pretty much hovering for the time being around the middle of the field. And of course, coming in 4th place into the point standings in this race. So we'll see how exactly this plays out as we're halfway this time by. I think we have your entire top 3 set for the time being, but I think Justin Moore, he's bearing down on Aiden Young. He wants that 2nd place.
So we'll do the math here. 4 heat races. Essentially, if you gain a spot, then you gain 4 spots in the A main here. So this isn't just 1 spot more trying to chase down Aiden Young. If Moore can get by Young, that's 4 spots ahead he'll start in the feature.
And we'll see as the laps continue to wind down and tick off. I think Aiden Young may have found the right line to catch up to Steven Speeds. We'll see. Looking at the lap time between themselves, it's just a little bit faster by 0.02 seconds faster was Aiden Young that time by. So he's starting to get the rhythm down. As we come to the white flag this time by, and Steven Speeds will be leading the field now down to the white flag through the Lanier Raceway as they slide through the corners using the middle lane. Not everyone really going right up against the inside wall, but for now it's going to be Steven Speeds in the 55. He will advance in 1st place with Aiden Young 2nd. 3rd place will be Justin Morton as they round turn 4 and cross the start-finish line. Everyone else going into the consolation event, and that is Robbie Robinson as well as Donnie Moore.
Well, so far, if we've learned anything from these heat races, it is how important it is to execute on starts and restarts. So many spots gained, so many spots lost in those first few corners in these heat races.
Speaking of those starts and restarts, leader does have lane choice on those both starts and restarts, so we'll see if anyone decides to opt for the outside lane. But in the meantime, we have for your final heat race number 4, it's going to be Spencer Gray in 1st, Brock Lovett starts 2nd, J.R. Shepard, who's been hanging around as well, sort of mid-pack, a little bit upper half of the field. He'll start third. Michael Redding, keep an eye on him. He starts fourth. Brian Dean starts off in fifth place. And a couple names that immediately stick out to me: Michael Redding, J.R. Shepard, and Brock Lovett.
Absolutely, and this is another heat race where we got a really good bunch right in the middle of the pack. And of course, Michael Redding did so well last weekend, just didn't quite get the result that he was looking for this time around. Looking for maybe not revenge, but just wants to go, okay, I was good enough to be P1, now it's time for P1 this week here at Lanier.
We'll see how Michael Redding does for tonight. As right now, he did he did place a practice session time, second place in practice. That's his fastest time as well. So we'll see how he does in this session. He just needs one more spot from his current starting position, but he does have J.R. Shepard and Brian Dean in his way. As the green flag flies, Spencer Gray will bring the field. Actually, he'll stall out. Never mind. Spencer Gray did not get going. Maybe starting the wrong gear, and he'll just slide out of the transfer spot. Hangs onto it, but he'll slide out of the transfer spot. That means J.R. Shepard now is in the top three.
Redding already up to second, gave Lovett a huge bump going into turn one off the green. And now Redding already has his sights set, so wants to reel in that black 66 car, find his way to the lead. J.R. Shepard in the final transfer spot in third.
Well, the inside lane stalled out, the outside lane wasn't going, so it's a big mix really of what exactly is going to be expected here on these restarts, as Redding takes a little bit of a higher lane now, higher than Brock Lovett just a little bit, but a little bit slower last time around. We'll see how this plays out. They can sort of throw the entire field under a blanket, really. They're all staggered out, but they are all within striking distance of each other if needed.
Lovett with the fastest lap of the race that time around. You can see how they're kind of pushing up what's like an inside cushion as the center continues to start to slick up a little bit, but that's exactly where Brock Lovett is racing that car. If you like dry, slick surfaces, Lanier is a spot where you gain a ton of momentum here as we get to halfway in heat race number 4.
That burst of momentum will be needed for sure, as now looks to be Spencer Gray falling back to now last place as Brian Dean passes him in the background for the time being. But right now, this looks to be all said and done for this top three right now in this heat race with only 3 laps to go. But I wouldn't be surprised if someone had anything a little bit more. Maybe J.R. Shepard has a little bit more for Michael Redding here.
Dean had a great lap trying to catch up to the final transfer spot of J.R. Shepard, but still 1.2 seconds behind. Probably just not going to have enough time if the top 3 continue running as consistent as they are. Michael Redding trying to push that car up a little bit higher and higher into the corners as we come to the white flag.
It's going to be the final lap this time by for Brock Lovett in the 66. He'll bring the field through the start-finish line, through the Lanier Raceplex, and sliding through the corners as well. But this could be all said and done with a very sizable gap. This is going to be Brock Lovett winning heat race number 4, the final heat race of the night. Michael Redding will round turn 4 as well. He'll come second place. In third place will be J.R. Shepard. That means it's Brian Dean and Spencer Gray going on into the Constellation event. And just double checking the math here, it should be, yep, it will be now 8 drivers advancing into the future race to make up your 20-car field, 12 laps this time around.
2 guys are going home. It's a quick turnaround from heat race number 4 to the Constellation race, Gary.
Yeah, it's going to be your entire 10-car field here for tonight. Again, Jason Menda was scheduled to start 11th, but unfortunately, technical issues aside, well, that is going to be him out of tonight. Bobby Rafferty, keep an eye on him. He'll start in first place. Second place, Joe Sergallo. Robbie Robinson starts off in third. Brian Dean starts fourth. Rounding out the first half of the field is Kenny Kibbe in fifth.
John Wilson in the 52 will start off inside of row number, or outside of row number 3. Donnie Moore in 7th, inside row 4 in the 26. Spencer Gray will start 8th in the 93. Matt Chinosky in the final row in that white 00. Austin Belkey rounds out the field in the 24 car.
And all these drivers are going to be someone to keep an eye on, but really is going to be the final, pretty much the 8th place position for the most part. It depends on how this goes. We have seen some people, I believe, last week not be able to finish the race, but still make it into the A main. So at this point, even if someone does have damage, it will be important to at least try and run the race out as much as possible to get the extra spot if needed. In the meantime, though... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying, like we mentioned, we got Bobby Rafferty, Joe Segala, Kenny Kibbe all in this B main here. A pretty stacked consolation race.
Let's see how stacked this gets, as it's going to be 2x2. Green flag flies. Bobby Rafferty down and away as much as he can be. He's got up on his outside just ever so slightly. Going to be Joe Segala, but so far the top two managed to sort themselves out for the time being. Segala almost on top of the back bumper. Rafferty opting down for the inside lane this time by.
Rafferty driving that slick stuff, drives away just a little bit as we have a little bit of loose guys in the back and someone pulling on pit road, and so issued early in lap number 1 of 12 for this consolation race, and that may get some big dividends to a few guys want to get into 8th and move on to the A main.
Johnny Moore in pit road, and John Wilson, who slid sideways but managed to hang on to it. That's currently right in car, now seeing the fastest lap being set by the one and only, of course, Bobby Rafferty for the time being, so he's still got it, but fastest lap this race as the track state wears on, 17.101, interestingly enough, but he's got a clear track ahead of him. While Joe Segala, Robbie Robinson, Kenny Kibbe, and Brian Dean, they're all, in a sense, battling amongst themselves, almost in a little bit of a pack of their own.
Top 5 driving away from the rest of the field, and everyone trying to experiment with some different lines. Of course, like we mentioned, these guys do have the advantage of seeing what the track will be like later in the A main and how you need to adjust yourself driving that slick stuff. That's what Bobby Rafferty, Robbie Robinson, Brian Dean, they're all running in the slick stuff right now, and they're all doing it pretty dang well. Meanwhile, Joe Segala, Kenny Kibbe driving right above that. What changes do you need to make here in these final 7 or 8 laps to put yourself in position to run well in the A main?
Of course, it's going to be trying to find the correct line. Maybe use the one that the leader is using just as a little bit of a reference point and move from there, because that's going to be important. Though, of course, the line that the leader is running is always assumed to be the fastest, but Joe Segala and Kenny Kibbe running a little bit higher up and throwing up a lot of dust as well in the process. Well, you can see they're hanging on respectively to their positions for the time being. There's Brian Dean on the inside of Kenny Kibbe, but really hasn't been able to make much of a move. It's like we saw with Aiden Young and Michael Redding over in the opening practice session for this race, for this tonight, really. Two guys were able to run side by side, but really it's a matter of really who can just get the best exit at that point.
Dean in that number 23 Firebird Street stock trying to find his way into the 4th position. Meanwhile, it's still Bobby Rafferty up front ahead of Joe Segala leading the way here, coming to 3 to go this time by.
Now that 3 laps to go, that means for Bobby Rafferty that he is going to be able to definitely secure a little bit of a spot. He's going to be able to secure a spot as well as the rest of the top 8, which is not pretty much everyone except John Wilson. John Wilson just off in 9th place. He's got Austin Belke directly in front of him for the time being, but for now I think that may be all said and done for your top 8 as Bobby Rafferty continues to set the pace. We've been seeing now that with everyone being able to break away from the top of the field, that everyone can set their pace and keep the gap just a little bit. So with the white flag this time by, and something to think about as we head into the 5-minute warm-up just after this checkered flag flies, then we'll see how the A main handles itself. But Bobby Rafferty with a great restart, or a great start rather than a great consolation race, he'll come across and win, advance into the A main, as well as Joe Segala in 2nd, Robbie Robinson 3rd, 4th Kenny Kibbe, Brian Dean in 5th, Matt Shanoski 6th, 7th Spencer Gray, and 8th place going to be Austin Belke. Unfortunately not advancing for tonight and going home are John Wilson and Donnie Moore.
All right, Gary, just about A main time here. We have everyone have some warm-up time. The track state comes kind of back down to 0, so it's a fresh track to try to get some laps on. But what this track does is it very quickly evaporates. The A main, the track state will be at 20%. That's about where it is right now. So where's your car going to be at when this thing starts here, Gary?
Well, the thing is, for this track, it's a matter of really just running the track down, using every single line possible. And it's these tracks, these race tracks, they can change a lot within 5 minutes. So it's going to be something to really keep an eye on, wonder, and think about how your car is going to be handling as well throughout the night, especially with what line works best for your car, and maybe even sometimes right next to somebody in some cases as well. It all depends on really just how everything sorts itself out as the track state continues to wear in. It'll be carrying over, and Well, immediately already, you see the dark patch right there just on the entry of turn 3 as we look back on Tyler Jackson, who sets the fastest lap time for this warm-up session. You see that those dark patches are already starting to come in early on.
Yeah, of course, Lanier National Speedway has been called a number of different things, but now known as Lanier Raceplex. It's had seen a few different owners in these past few years, and most of you guys probably don't really attribute it with racing much anymore, but believe it or not, the track is paved over, but now it's more of a karting track, and they do some drifting and stuff like that. But there have been national series that race here. The Arca Menard Series, their only appearance back on May 28th of 2005, won by a big name, David Reagan. The last NASCAR series to go there, the Wheel and Southern Modifieds on April 18th of 2009. Andy Seuss, some of you guys might know him, very successful in that series. But believe it or not, because this track got repaved, there's no more inside walls, it's just a black pond like they called it, you wouldn't think that there had been very many, you know, some sort of stock car races there recently. But believe it or not, Lanier held a race just 5 months ago with the Pro All-Star Series Super Late Models. That's back on November 16th of 2019. Ben Ashline won that race back in November. So, hey, this is kind of cool that racing's kind of going back to Lanier, even though they don't really have inside walls. But this track that's been on iRacing, beloved by iRacers for so many years, is kind of trying to get back at it.
Not only that, it's also still sitting across from the Road to Atlanta road course as well. So, it's told by Joe Peak, a little bit of geography lesson for anyone who's really interested. Even I didn't know that, to be quite honest, and that's really interesting. That's just across from Road Atlanta. So, very rarely do you see some dirt tracks, well, really tracks in general, really right next to each other. There is, of course, Las Vegas and the bull ring at Las Vegas. There's Charlotte's Oval track, as well as their dirt track just across a little bit. So it's really just interesting seeing really how many tracks really. I'm even seeing essentially very unrelated with, say, Lanier and Road Atlanta. You never really expect some tracks to be right next to each other, but it's just full of history, really. It's just the entire area is, and that's really fun to be learning about this as well. And my goodness, just I knew it was dusty on this racetrack, but
dry slick.
My goodness, it is a lot of dust. And I believe I pointed this out just a while ago as well, but with the starts for the drivers that are in the back of the field, it's going to be difficult for them. And I'm pretty sure they, for sure, just take it easy going into the first opening laps, because you are essentially being blinded and you can't really see a single thing. So it's kind of like being in a dust storm, except you're driving about 70 miles an hour into said dust storm at the same time, while also going sideways.
And this can also be more of a one-lane track than even something like Eldora, when you just go straight up to the wall. Here at Lanier, you don't really shove that cushion up like you would in a sprint car here. The preferred lane in dirt street stocks, these half-ton tanks, is on the inside. It's almost a one-lane track all the way around until it really starts to slick off. Then it's, okay, where can I not spin this car out at while also having good speed? So they're probably going to line up just like they did in the heat races to start things off in this A main. But I'm thinking that once the track slicks off, people are going to have to make decisions. Where can I run where I don't lose the rear end of the car and run into someone else? Because that can just completely ruin your entire night in this 40-lap A main.
These 40 laps here are going to be very key for these drivers, and we have 15 seconds and just counting down now to the feature event. So in just a few moments, we'll see how these drivers line up here for the A-main race. Get a little bit of popcorn ready and keep your feet up, because this is going to be quite interesting. These guys here are going to put on one heck of a show for you tonight as well. And that's definitely what they aim for week in and week out. It's going to be quite exciting to see what they do this week here tonight at Lanier. As warm-up ends, your starting grid for the A main will be as follows here. For your first half of the field, it's going to be Tyler Jackson up on the front row. He starts first place. Easy for him, of course, already very early on. Brad Spilo starts off in second place. Steven Spees starting off in third. Fourth place will be Brock Lovett. Fifth place is Jared Nelson. Ron Snyder starts off in sixth. Seventh place, Aiden Young. Eighth place, Michael Redden. Keep an eye on him for this week, especially after his performance at Knoxville. Brendan Myers starts ninth, and rounding out your top 10 and first half of the field is Dylan Schwier.
In row number 6, starting 11th in that white 9, Justin Moore. On the outside of him, in 12th will be J.R. Shepard in the 98. Row 7, Bobby Rafferty in the double 7. starts 13th. On the inside of Joe Segala in the 81, starting outside row 7 in 14th. Robbie Robinson in the 56 will start off in 15th. Kenny Kibbe outside row 8 in the 14. Brian Dean in the number 23 car starts off 17th in row 9. Matt Shanoski in the 00 in 18th. Spencer Gray will start things off in 19th. And rounding out the field, Austin Belkey, some issues logging on to today's race.
We'll see how this field takes to this track. And Tyler Jackson already, well, he doesn't really have to do any work anymore at this point. All he has to do is just start the race, and that's pretty much all said and done for him once the pace truck pulls off, especially since he's been consistently dominant for the entire time as well. So we'll see how he does. If he can win race number 4 as well for tonight's event, it's going to be Tyler Jackson bringing the field to the green, starting and opting for the inside lane. Brad Spile in the 76 starts on this outside. Pace truck pulls off. It's 40 laps from Lanier as Tyler Jackson dives down to the inside. Green flag flies, and we're racing at Lanier as they all full throttle it and slide down into turns 1 and 2. Everyone trying to scramble for position and banging doors as they make their way into 3 and 4 for the first time with the green.
The first 7 cars barely separated at all. 3 wide racing for second, 3 wide racing for fifth here as we complete lap number 1 at Lanier National Speedway.
Right now it's nearly going to be 4 wide. It was a little bit close as well, but they all managed to luckily hang on to as it's 3 wide. Redding in the middle of that mid-pack. Right now it's currently, for the time being, it's going to be Tyler Jackson bringing the field out, and Steven Spees, the second driver to break free of a 2 wide battle. It's going to be the top 2 single file for the time being, and you see just there in the middle, Michael Redding trying to make his way through the middle lane and the inside lane as well. 4 driver on the inside, but still hanging up on the top side as that 76 of Brad Spile, just trying to run that line in, trying to use it as much as possible.
Vital pioneering the cushion, though. It's not always your choice. When there's someone on the inside of you, you have to give them room, assuming that they might slide up in all of that slick stuff. But so far, the fast lap guy is the bottom feeder, Tyler Jackson, running that bottom lane, finding his way to kind of gap this field right now as Steven Spees is just trying to find a way to move up as he watches the hood of Aiden Young and the mess of chaos and dirt flying in front of him.
And you see just how much dirt there is. And that's just mid-pack as well. That's not even through the entire field as well. But Aiden Young just managing to hang on to it as the cloud of dust continues to kick up as, well, right now currently 6 laps in throughout this race. Right now it's going to be a little bit of a look 3 wide through the middle. And almost 4 wide actually as Jared Morton was just peeking down to the inside lane under Aiden Young. Was already 3 wide with, I believe, the 05. And someone else up on the top side as well. I believe that's 29 of Ron Snyder, and it is. So Justin Morton rather, trying to look to really set his way throughout the field here.
Morton and Rafferty trying to push their way into the top 5. Dylan Schweer, who had a great heat race and great qualifying, right now staying in 9th, just in front of the bunch of those guys, all hounding them, trying to find their way into the top 10. Right now, it is just a bottleneck in the middle of the pack, trying to gun for position inside of 10 laps completed here of the 40.
Right now, for the time being, it's going to be clean and green, but Bobby Rafferty actually was looking to the inside of Justin Morton. He got shuffled back just ever so slightly, but he does manage to luckily hang on to it for the time being, as a bit close moment in the background as well between the 56 and 25. They managed to hang on to it and nearly touch doors, but everyone's so far so good for the time being as the top 4 now appears to have broken away.
Boy, it's starting to look like a World of Outlaws race out there. A track that's just black with rubber and you can barely see anything with all that dust flying from this dry, slick track. Dylan Schweer currently in 7th, trying to hold off Brad Spidle and Aiden Young right now working in that 6th position. And as you can see, everyone try to start to move down lower on the track. It's so important to not be side by side with someone. The more you can arc it into the corner, these guys use so much throttle going into the corner. You want to be able to get as much grip and as much arc as you can to hit that full momentum and blast off the corners.
And that's exactly what Tyler Jackson is doing up at the front of the field as we go to lap 13 this time by. And it's just like we've been seeing in the heat races, where there's a little bit of a gap now between first and second. Well, in this case, it's a little bit larger, actually, I should say, than compared to the heat races, maybe just by a little bit. We are coming up on the live traffic of Matt Shanoski in the 00, but Shinovsky's trying to run the top side. Now Tyler Jackson also runs up on the top side as well for the first time tonight by the looks of this. Steven Spees in second, Brock Levin third, Michael Redden fourth. They continue to run the relative middle to inside lane for the time being between these drivers.
Tyler Jackson's lead already to a second, but Steven Speed starting to knock a little bit off. As you guys can see on that very inside the track, there's just a little bit where it's not quite black yet. There's still moisture there. If you can get 2 tires on there, you still have enough grip to try to make some room and catch the guy in front of you. He's already knocked off about 0.3 of a second in the past 3 to 4 laps on Tyler Jackson. But Jackson trying to run away from the pack last season here at Lanier, led 49 of the 50 laps. Tonight is only 40 laps. He wants to go perfect tonight and lead all 40.
Right now, Steven Spees, he's been consistently, aside from just this time by the start-finish line, Steven Spees was consistently about a tenth or so faster than Tyler Jackson, keeping in mind that's when Tyler Jackson is using the top side of the racetrack. So I think Jackson realized as well it's not really a good line for momentum. That's opted back down to use the inside lane. Now it's Steven Spees who is about a tenth slower than Tyler Jackson, and we're back to right where we started with Tyler Jackson making the gap, Steven Spees and crew falling a little bit ways behind.
And I'm sure a lot of you iRacers have felt this before. When you're trailing someone, you want to move around the track. Okay, where's another line that I can utilize that has moisture? Maybe I'm more comfortable. As the leader, it's so much more difficult to do that. You're already driving in the rearview mirror. You're already trying to work this car as hard as you can. You don't want to be moving around lines. You want to do whatever works. That's where the guys behind you have an advantage. They can move, they can shake, and before you know it, sometimes they can end up on someone else's bumper. But Jackson has adapted really well, extended his lead back out to almost 1.2 seconds.
We're currently taking a look midfield, around 10th place between Bobby Rafferty on the inside lane, Ron Snyder up top. Both drivers still continuing to at least hang on for the time being. Sorry, Brad Spile up top, rather. Although Ron Snyder's actually not too far behind Brad Spile. Maybe looking to the inside lane here for breaking into the top 10. That's we got about 4P past halfway.
Love it. If you just crank the wheel, sometimes it's just track already is all across the middle. Steven Spees has a little bit of trouble on the high side keeping that car in order.
Now, speaking of having trouble on the high side, Redding also clipped the wall a little bit off turn number 2, just because, of course, still continuing to shoot that just yet, as Steven Spees a little bit under fire from Michael Red.
Brock Lovett right now, I know he's not just sitting back and waiting, but being able to see what all 3 cars in front of him is doing, really captured to see what lane do I need to run, because right now the top 4 is run away from Aiden Young and the rest of the field.
Yeah, top 4 themselves have definitely cleared a very sizable gap between themselves so far, as we're coming down into near 10 laps to go this time by, and still just barely hounding the left rear quarter panel is Michael Redding on Steven Spees, and Steven Spees really can't he can do a little bit to defend, and that's just run the inside lane, maybe a little bit more inside, but of course at what cost to the line of Steven Spees to try to keep that momentum for second place. But so far, Redding may have used up everything for the time being, and I think that might be it for the challenge to second place for now.
And I love that shot we had on board sitting on the hood of these cars. You can see the texture of this track so well, where it's licking off and where the track is black. If you put your hand there, well, right now it'd be very hot, it might get ran over, but after a little bit, it would feel almost exactly like concrete, as we have a yellow flag out on track.
Robbie Robinson off of turn number 4 was a quick lone spin, actually, oddly enough, as well. We're going to get a quick replay here. I was going to ask you, Devin, what the caution history was at this track, but I didn't want to jinx anything, so that is why. But
just the thought of it, Gary. Just
the thought of it is what caused that. But that's what happened there. Robinson, oh, great avoidance by Segala. I think he barely avoided that, actually, maybe by about a foot or 2, but man, that was a little bit too close for comfort for Segala, just barely getting by Robinson there, and luckily had the inside lane open at the time.
And I haven't said it yet, but I do got it. Oh man, boy, that is close, especially coming off the floor on the high side there. But you got to give it out to Segala. I love the spec map on the number of that number 81.
Very shiny. It's really good. I love everyone who's taking advantage of that as well.
Love chrome.
Well, lights are already on the pace truck already. That was very quick. I forgot how quick these pace laps here under cautions are, but welcome to dirt racing in general as well. It's going to be Tyler Jackson opting for the inside lane, and it looks like we're going to be waiting a little bit, just one lap more, and that's going to be for the back half of the field to catch up. Shinosky, Robinson, and Gray and company as well. I want everyone to be caught up to the back of the field here, just to be sure that no one really gets into play here, gets involved in any incidents between these lead lap cars.
And Gary, what did I say earlier about cautions? What do you need to do best about cautions and restarts? This is where you can gain all of your spots. This changes everything coming to 5 to go.
I thought you were going to say something completely different. That was a moniker towards cautions.
I don't want to. It will jinx it. I don't want to say that. Yep. I know what you're thinking. I don't want to say
Definitely a good idea. Well, 5-lap shootout here as Tyler Jackson is already down and away as the pace truck pulls off into pit road. And this time by Redding, well, he's going to actually stay behind. He's not going to opt for the inside lane. Steven Speed is up top. And it's going to be a 5-lap shootout. Redding just barely trying to get a nose under Tyler Jackson in the corners, but Jackson with just a little bit more momentum as he almost makes contact in 3 and 4. He'll slide up the racetrack in front of Steven Speed into the outside wall. They just hang on to it for 4 to go.
Here comes Aiden Young on the inside. And how about that blue 77? Bobby Rafferty moves into the top 5 on the inside.
Somehow, out of nowhere, Bobby Rafferty just capitalizing. I know Redding is itching. He's itching for that lead as we come now to 3 laps to go. The laps continue to wind down. It's a mad scramble mid-pack, but Redding still trying to get right on the inside lane, maybe even under the quarter panel with number 8, trying to find the right line. He opts for the top side in 3 and 4, slides up the racetrack. 2 laps to go at the start-finish line.
You have to get to the bumper. It's too much of a one-lane track right now. You got to get Jackson out of his groove. Speed's right now on the inside. And this is what Tyler Jackson would love to see. 2 wide racing behind him coming to the white flag.
This time by, it will be the white flag final lap this time around. Tyler Jackson ahead with 2 drivers battling behind him in the form of Michael Redding and Steven Speeds. Does Speeds have anything? Does Redding have anything as well up on the top side? Down the back straightaway, Tyler Jackson leads the entire race so far. Redding, a little bit of a shot on the inside lane. He and Speeds make contact as they drag race for second, but it's Tyler Jackson with the win. 40 laps all led here tonight at Lanier. Somehow, someway, Michael Redding edging out Steven Speeds with a little bit of a door bang for the finish for the rest of your top 3.
Last year led all but one, gets the victory bump from Bobby Rafferty. Tonight, though, he leads every single lap. Wire to wire, Tyler Jackson picks up win number 4 on the season. He's already halfway to his mark from last year.
Great job. Congratulations to Tyler Jackson, who's going to wait a little bit, wait for the field to go by into pit road, and then he'll burn it down as best he can here for the 4th time this season. 4 wins out of 5 races here. And Tyler Jackson burns it down off in turn number 1. Congratulations to the number 8. We're going to get a little bit of post-race interviews here coming up very shortly. And for the time being, we will go to a quick break where we see some upcoming races, the unofficial results, and update on the top 5 and the points as well just after this. Quick break here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Don't go anywhere, as we'll be right back here at Lanier. Welcome back to the Lanier National Speedway, where we had a very impressive 40-lap race here. And we're going to bring you your finishing results here for tonight as well. After 40 laps, one of which only one caution, Tyler Jackson is victorious here at Lanier, leading all 40 laps, with Michael Redding and Steven Spees battling it out for second place off of turn number 4. Redding edging out Spees for second and third, respectively. Aiden Young finishes in fourth place. Fifth place was Bobby Rafferty, setting the fast time in practice and qualifying with the exact same time. Comes home with the end of the top 5. Brock Lovett finishes in 6th. Dylan Schwieger 7th. 8th place was Justin Morton. 9th place Kenny Kibbe. Ron Snyder rounding out your first half of the field in 10th.
Brian Dean with a trek from 17th to 11th here at Lanier. Brad Speidel unfortunately goes the opposite direction from 2nd to 12th here. Brennan Myers ends the night in 13th. Joe Segala in 14th. Austin Belke ends up 15th. J.R. Shepard takes home P16. Matt Janowski in 17th. Issues for Gerard Melton dropping from 5th to 18th tonight. Spencer Gray in 19th. And Robbie Robinson rounds out your 20-car field from Lanier National Speedway.
A great race entirely, and well, we have your top 3 available for interview, so I'm going to start off with your race winner, Tyler Jackson. Tyler Jackson, congratulations on your 4th win of the season now, and you are just continuing to set the premise, just race after race after race. Absolutely impressive job here tonight. How's the track out there?
It was pretty one groove there, which really lended a good hand to starting on the pole, I guess.
Yeah, that one groove race was definitely a little bit of a favor really for you as well, in a sense. The top line almost came in a little bit. Some drivers tried to run it, but unfortunately it didn't work out too much. But they call you the bottom feeder as well, I believe. So that shark paint scheme definitely helping out. And well, after this race, what are your thoughts really? Just 4th win of the season and overall with the race in general.
Yeah, I had the worst qualifying night I've had this far, and it actually benefited me. And then I saw who was in my heat. It was a pretty stacked heat. And then just happened on that green flag of that heat race, the seas parted for me, and I ended up getting a win. So that's basically, like I said, if you don't start top few here, you're going to have a hard time winning.
Yeah, of course, a very difficult time winning. Indeed, you are 1 point away from being in the 400-point bracket here. So you do have a continuous, sizable gap heading into next week. And speaking of next week being, double checking here at Lenderville, that's going to be quite interesting. What are your thoughts as we head into that track for the next race?
That's probably my favorite track on the sim. There's no outside wall, so there's no room for error. You got to run right up against the top. Can't go over the berm. Just hang that right rear out there. So it's a blast to run. It's probably my favorite track on here.
Before we let you go celebrate your 4th win of the season, anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for this win?
Yep, got to thank the girlfriend as always. Let me come down here. Jack's EDM on the hood of the car. Then we got NC Resources on the quarter panels. Milner Media with this cool shark design, and my crew chief Jose Gill has been turning the wrenches.
Well, we thank you for your time. Congratulations again on your 4th win of the season. We hope to see and talk to you again next week at Lenderville.
Thank you for the broadcast.
That was race winner Tyler Jackson. We're going to send it down to Devin Henry, who's caught up with Michael Redding.
Michael Redding now moves into 2nd in the points with a 2nd place finish here tonight at Lanier National Speedway. Michael, we were talking about how restarts were going to be important. You moved from 3rd to 2nd. You were right on Jackson's bumper. What else did you need there to try to give him a better fight, head to that checkered flag?
I really don't know. I mean, I could have moved him, but that's not how I'm going to race. Maybe if there was just a little bit more grip on the top side, I might could have got a run off of him off the corner and got by him, but he drove a heck of a race, so what much more I could do.
And we talked to him just a moment ago, and he talked about how it was a one-groove track. He tried to kind of get on the bottom. It slicked off. Top wasn't that fast. But somehow, some way, you still managed to come from all the way in 8th to finish off in 2nd. What worked for you tonight to make that big push?
Just being aggressive, bullying my way through. Not wrecking people to get through the field, but just taking chances and hoping that it paid off. And that's what got me up to 3rd for a while. And I could run Spies down, but I couldn't really get the pass on him. And it was definitely locked down to a one groove track.
finishing second in the race, now second in points behind Tyler Jackson. Who do you got to thank for your performance tonight?
I just appreciate everybody at the team, keeping me motivated, keeping me going. I got to thank my sponsors, Max Throttle Motorsports and Young Gun Creations. Without them, I couldn't do some of the stuff that I do, but appreciate everybody that puts the league on and everything. So,
gotta love that American flag up on the top of Michael Rain's car, bringing that 30 home in second. Thanks, Michael.
You bet. Thank you.
And now with your third place finisher, Steven Speeds, we head back on over to Gary Weaver.
Thanks, Devin. Here with third place finisher Steven Speeds. A relatively quiet night in a sense, but also not really, because you were up there in the battle for second place throughout the entire night, Steven. And, well, you managed to hang on to at least a third place finish. So not really too bad of a night for you. You do stay fourth place in the point standings as well.
Yeah, not, can never complain about finishing on the podium, right? That restart kind of caught me on the outside, so had to try to fight my way back down there. And I felt like those last lap or two I was catching back up with Tyler and Michael, but I don't know that I'd have had enough to pass either one of them if we had more laps. But just kind of followed Tyler around most of the time. Really, is all I did.
Yeah, essentially with this race, it was a little bit of a follow the leader, essentially, almost quite literally. So heading into Leonardville next week, what are your thoughts for that 40-lap race?
Small track again, so you'll probably have to bully your way a little bit if you start farther back. Other than that, we'll see how it races. It's always hard in these street stocks. They're low power and not a lot of, well, they got a lot of grip, they got a lot of tire, but you can't do much with it. So it's hope that you finish in your heat well, get a good spot in the feature, and stay out of trouble. That's really going to be the story.
Well, before we go ahead and let you go celebrate your third place finish and evaluate the next race as well, who you have to thank for your third place finish tonight?
I just always, if we get the opportunity, say thanks to the folks that run any of these leagues. It's a thankless job. This league actually is really good, but I'm sure you still get people complaining and everything else. So kudos to the admins for taking time out of their day to do this and letting us all race together. So it's a great league, and all the thanks to them.
Well, thank you for your time as well. We hope to talk to you again next week at Leonardville. Steven Speeds finishing third place. Congratulations.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Well, before we go into our outro, quick update on the point standings as well, as we have, coming into this race, it was Tyler Jackson in first, Justin Morton second, third place was Michael Redding, Steven Speeds was fourth, and fifth place was Kenny Kibbe. Now, after this race, Tyler Jackson still remains first. Michael Redding and Justin Morton now swap positions. Michael Redding is now second place in points. Justin Morton third place. Steven Speeds remains in fourth place in the point standings. Aiden Young jumps from seventh place in the points to now fifth place. And unfortunately for Kenny Kibbe, he gets shoved back now to sixth place as a result of that, as a result of this race for your points. But for now, we like to, as we wrap up here at Lanier, we'd like to give thanks to the Cruise Shop that you can contact at 260-755-6125, or you can see their website at thecruiseshopfw.com. The Cruise Shop is dedicated to fulfilling their clients' dreams one destination at a time. I'd like to thank the Bootleg Racing League for allowing us to cover their league here, the Dirt Street Stock Series on GSRC, another amazing race here from tonight. And we'd like to give thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed there on your screen. Additional thanks goes to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. You can take a look at the link on the screen for how to get a hold of her for more great work. It's a little bit of a tongue twister there. Apologies for that, but thanks to the team today, Devin Henry, director Joe Peak, and camera provider Dougie Beard. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can visit our social media over at our Twitter, which is GSR Channel, Facebook, which is Global SimRacing Channel, or Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you'd like to support the channel, go check out our merchandise store at gsrc.storenvy.com. That's gsrc.storenvy.com. The link is in the description below. And don't forget to head over to our YouTube page and hit that bright red subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Set your preferences to all so you don't miss a moment here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Next Bootleg Racing Series race here on GSRC is Leonardville at the usual time of 5:10 p.m. Pacific or 8:10 p.m. Eastern time. But you can also see any other of our upcoming races here on your screen. And if any of those catch your interest, make sure to mark them down in your calendar. As we sign off from Lanier tonight, thanks again to co-commentator Devin Henry, director Joe Peak, and camera provider Dougie Beard. I'm Gary Weaver, and until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.